Welcome to MRD Chatroom. I'm Philip Hackett, Media Resource Officer, and today my special guest is Eric Clarke, an avid road runner. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks for having me here. Before I go any further, I would just say that one of my employers, Intel, used to send us out to various places to give talks, and the first thing they would tell you is, when you go there, nobody has to listen to you. You have to give them a reason for listening to you. So you have to tell them something about yourself that will keep them focused and not want to get up and go.
Okay, so tell us something about yourself.
Okay, I would say that I've been running since 1991. So I have 33 years in it. I've run up to last month. I've run 48,000 kilometers in about 3,600 road segments.
You're talking about competitive? Or
no,
not
I'm
necessarily?
not talking about competitive. I'm talking about, because most of the time you are training and you go in a race every now and then, right?
Okay. So when you do most of this training, in the morning, in the evening?
It all depends. I prefer to go out. If I'm training for a marathon, you need to have a few 4-hour sessions that you run for 4 hours.
Right.
For me, I prefer to go out as soon as the last bus leaves Bridgetown. That is, you go at 12 something.
Okay.
And if you do that, if you go to around 12 something, and
This
you
is
go,
midnight you're talking about?
yes, yes. And then if you have to spend 4 hours on the road, by the time people are coming out from the fets, you'll be off the road already. So it's safer to go when the people are inside the fet.
Okay.
And then you have the road for yourself.
Well, you actually put a different perspective on it, because I always saw a lot of the training, or imagine a lot of that training would take place in the early hours of the morning, maybe around 5, 6 o'clock, when personally I would prefer to be sleeping. So basically it's interesting to see that it actually happens both ways, because I'm sure there are times when you train in the morning.
Yes, like yesterday morning, I went out about 5, just after 5. But I consider that a bit too late.
Yeah.
I live between Highway 4 and Highway 5. You get a lot of traffic when 6 o'clock, coming up to 6 o'clock. Okay. So I'd rather go out at 4 something or 3 something and be back in the house by 6 o'clock.
From a safety perspective, I'm not talking about safety now in terms of the sport itself, but safety in terms of the society in which we live. How do you deal with that?
I find that people are understanding. Generally, I find so. Even the motorists, as they say, and the motorists they're pretty kind. But you have to help.
But what about people who may not have good intentions?
I don't think they have too many of those, And then again, they seem to look at you and try to work out whether you have sense or not, and then act accordingly. So if you go out on the road looking like a Christmas tree, and there's one runner, Mark Greenwich, who he has done more than running on the road than I have. Okay. Because when I run 1,800 kilometers in a year, he might have 4,000, right? But if you see this guy on the road, he looks like you would lift him up and put him in your living room as a Christmas tree. He has all color lights. So what I'm saying, that when a motorist sees you looking like that, he sort of like respects you. You don't want to cause him any problem, and they give you a chance to use the road.
Okay. Now, you said you've been running for about 33 years. I would imagine this is not something you did, let's say, while you were at school. A lot of athletes start young. What got you involved?
2 things. I used to talk to 2 youngsters. I used to work my last job was at BET. And I used to talk to one youngster under the tree where people watch cricket. Oh, yes. And he was about 20 years younger. And he'd be talking about he went running this place, running that place. And it's like, running? I mean, how could you do that? And there was another guy, I used to swim at Folkestone. Okay. So I would run into this other youngster, he was about 20 years younger. And he would run from Spikestown to Folkestone to do his fancy gymnastics on the beach. So if I'm talking to you, he said, well, let me try this running and see how it goes. So one evening I went on a trial, and it worked, and I've been at it ever since then. Besides, I'm not telling any listener or viewer to do what I did, but I found that by running, say, 3 times per week, up to almost 5 hours total, it stabilized my blood pressure. And therefore, I didn't have to, after a while, as long as I could get out 3 times a week, I didn't need any medication. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but somebody might go trying it.
Don't try this at home, then. Don't try this
No,
at home.
I'm saying that's what I did.
Yeah.
But I'm not telling people to go out and for that reason. So after I realized it works, then I started looking at people who go into races. And I said to myself, "But these people in a race, well, I could beat more than half of them." So the ego cut in, and I started going into competition.
Okay, so you got the health benefits. Then, of course, that the ego, as you call it.
Oh, yeah, I call it
But
that.
apart from that, what would you say are some of the other benefits from this activity?
If you can afford it, then you can run overseas. And I would say that when I started, we started with a small club at the end of the 90s, 1998 or so. And during that era, we had clubs, but they mostly had school children who were trying to get scholarships to go to a university overseas. The adults really had nobody looking after them. So we had a 100% basically adult club. And then we started trying things, you know. If you're coming out to run with us, we would give you a map of the route. We would also give you a terrain diagram, and I'll show you later what they look like. So you know where the hills are going to come.
Okay.
Right? So you know what to eat for a particular session, right?
We talked about overseas. Tell us about your overseas experiences. What are some of the more interesting races that you've taken part in?
Well, I've done 33 marathons. I think I have the highest amount as a Bajan living in Barbados.
Okay.
There are probably people who, overseas Bajans, who have more than that. But I checked the records I could find, and I would say right now I think I have my 33 marathons.
And this includes marathons both locally?
Yes, actually most of them are overseas. I have exactly 10 in the Caribbean and 2 in Suriname. I have 7. I've done 7 in North America, Miami 4 times, and I did U.S. Marine Corps, Chicago, and Fort Lauderdale, the one at Fort Lauderdale. So, yes, I would say that.
Well, I'm saying we've gone as far away as Greece. Tell us about
yes, Greece is the one I had to do. The marathon is older than Christianity. It is. So in 2010, the Greeks wanted to celebrate, and they did celebrate, 2,500 years of the marathon, 2,500. So me now, I was past 60 already, and I said to myself, maybe I shouldn't wait until to do 2,500, the 2,500 anniversary. Right. So I decided I will go for 24.99. Okay. So in 2007. A group of us were here, 4 of us, 2 men, 2 women. We decided we are going to Greece. And that was about the most difficult one to train for, because the Greek marathon, it starts at the city of Marathon, and the first 5K is downslope onto the Adriatic, not the Adriatic, the Aegean Sea. Aegean Sea. So you have 5K downhill, then you have another 5 in the flat along the coast. And then it starts to climb. And it climbs the first, from kilometer number 10 to number 18. It goes up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then when it gets to 18, it just starts up. For the next 14, you just go up till you get to about 32. And then it flattens down slope into Athens in the last 10K. So the problem for us in Barbados is we spent a long time looking for a place in Barbados in which you can get 14 kilometers upslope and no downslope in the...
How successful were you? How successful were you in
I think that eventually we settled for we can find Barbados. It has too many downslopes. So what we did was, in the marathon was November, and sometime in May, we found a place where you could get only one downslope. So we went over by Roberts Manufacturing at Lower State.
Yes.
So we ran to Charlesworth Bridge, and then down to the Y Junction. The Y Junction, we're passing tropic ice, that Y Junction. And from there, the upslope started. There you were at 41 kilometers above the seacoast. So the next thing was Turnpike, and Turnpike was 67 meters above, so you're up. But then you had that downslope near Buckley. After you passed Constant about, you had those downslope, and I couldn't find a way to get rid of it. So I said, okay, since Constant is 56 or so, and Turnpike is 67, then I could ignore that. But then when we got to Draxall, you had Woodland Bottom, near Woodland Plantation, and that was a big downslope, and that spoiled it, so to speak. But then you came out of Woodland, then you went across Todd's to Four Roads, Wakefield, and then when you got to Wilson Hill, you got the Greek upslope.
So after all this, then, how did you actually perform in Greece in terms of, how satisfied were you with the?
I was satisfied because, unlike the guys here, I don't go in the race and say I come this or I come that. I look at the international results, and I realize that the majority of people in a marathon, everybody has 40,000, or whether it has 2,000. Almost 80% of them take more than 4 hours to finish. So the fast people is just about 1 to 3%, and then you have the other people like me. And I want to get in the less than 4 hours.
Right.
You see? So I go to do a race, and as long as I could...
You set targets for yourself.
I set, exactly. That's it.
So having had the experience overseas, yourself and others, how was that helped, if at all, in structuring improved situations or an improved product locally? I'm
glad you asked, because there's some places, for example, I ran in Suriname, and I copied so many things from them. Charmaine will tell you that we copied so many things from Suriname. For one, we made the people, if we have one of our in-house races, this is different or distinct from Run Barbados and those people. If we have it in-house, everybody gets weighed as in Suriname, and you take a note of how heavy they are when they start. And when they come back, you weigh them again and see the difference. Then you ask them a few questions like, how much water did you drink along the way? Yeah. Because you want to get the fluid loss. You see what I mean? So I would say that all the races that we plan internally, we have fewer loss, hydrogen, how much water you displaced as you ran. And then most of the time, they have the ambulance there. And all the ambulance that is driving wait till you drop down and pick you up. So we disagreed with that. And the ambulance, they're supposed to take your SPO to your when you come back in. The ambulance does that to all of our participants. Okay. And after you be weighed, we make sure that you're hydrated. In Suriname, they take it one step further. They don't allow you to, if you just stumble, they make sure that you don't have to walk anymore. They send somebody to put you on a stretcher and move you. And then they take your temperature and they put you in these little chambers that the water comes out at different angles, like surround sound, surround water. So it comes out at different angles. Okay. And so we copied some of those things from Suriname. But unfortunately, we have not had any success in convincing many of the organizers here that these things are important, especially for a big event like Run Barbados.
Well, of course, your reference to Charmaine is a colleague of mine, and I guess a fellow runner of yours. I don't know if she's as what should I say, experienced as you are in that. But
we have Berkeley too. He doesn't come out as often now because he's a triathlete.
Okay, so I suppose
Berkeley has done some of our internal events.
So another one of my colleagues.
Yes.
I suppose I don't know. Maybe I need to follow their example. Let's move on to something else. So We're talking about local competition, and the fact that you're concerned that maybe some of the innovations you've seen elsewhere are not adopted here. What is there a continued battle dealing with this? How do you address that shortcoming?
Well, let's put it this way: if you discuss something with people, and for them it's no big deal, after a while you think it's a big deal. You think you're going to get injured, like running on the sidewalks. And if it's a sidewalk with a long stretch, like if it's like, like down Farmer Spring Garden, Grind Highway, if you have a sidewalk down there, it's going to go for a long time, so you could stay on it, or if it has a shoulder. But if you're on, say, a road like between Bell Gully Corner, well, because I live pretty close, and Norman Isles, all along there you have people living on both sides of the road, and their own vehicles. I see vehicles parked next to their houses. So they have to get these vehicles off the road next to their house. So every now and then, if you're on the sidewalk, every now and then you have to go down because it's in front of somebody's house. And as soon as you pass the house, it goes back up. So you have to be jumping up and down, and it does not agree with me. I get growing pain if I do that. And I suppose had I continued to do it, I would probably have been one of the unlucky runners who had hernia surgery. So what I decided to do, I'm going out in the dark, right? In the dark.
When you don't have to worry about the sidewalk.
You don't have to worry about the sidewalk. Besides, in the dark, the motorists tend to keep their headlamps on. If you go in twilight, some motorists switch off theirs pretty early. So I would say that I don't have too many problems. I use my hands to indicate when I want to change from one side of the road to the other, so that the motorists could see the hand. Remember? You're probably too young to know, but any days go by. I mean, I say that because I'm approaching 80.
Wow.
See what I mean? So everybody's younger than me, basically. We were encouraged as cyclists to use hand signals back then. I don't know if it still happens now, but I hardly see any cyclists using their hands to indicate when I'm going this way or that way.
So obviously, road running has a positive effect on aging as well. But you mentioned earlier that about the adults involved. Locally, has there been any intense effort to get maybe school children involved in road running?
In the schools have a restriction. You can't put children to run very long distances. And most of the time, the school's playing field and the area just around the school maybe is good enough for school children. Also, when I came to running, I said most of the clubs were for school children. And then you had, my grandmother used to call them, each club has its straw boss.
Okay.
So these people were like under heavy manners. You can't go and run with who you feel like. When we came on the scene, we said, you shouldn't have to pay to go and run. So what we did was we set a CFC standard. You can't come out in any and every color. I saw just last week one guy in a gray shirt. This was 6 to 7 in the morning. He was just finished going home. He had a gray top, gray shorts, and he was running on a gray Barbara Green Road. Wow. So what I'm saying is that suppose it was dark, you would hardly see. Then at the point he passed next to a gray vehicle, I said, look at him.
So how can one then address that safety concern?
What I decided to do, I want to stay alive, and I don't think a motorist wants to knock me down and then spend a lot of time in the court and all sorts of things, inquests. So I think the motorist wants me alive. And I said the most I can do is to help him to keep me alive. So I switched to using...
well, let's have a look.
You want to have a look? We switched to these... How do I hold? To this camera?
You can hold it.
Anyhow. So these vests, they're fairly cheap, like $9-10 US for one. Okay. And it has a pocket to put the keys.
And that's not a lot of money to save your life, is it?
Exactly. The coffin costs a lot more.
Oh, yes, true.
So you put, you have a place to hold keys. Then you get my age, you also put in there the name of your doctor. You put your ID card, and I also put a card that I could pay if I fall down. Somebody might not hit me, but I might just not feel well. I have to go by a doctor. So yes, in that respect, I find they're very useful. And what you should do every now and then is you test it to see if it's still reflecting. So you put it in a dark room in your house, and you shine a torchlight on it, and it should light up like a full moon.
Okay.
If it does not, it will mean that the reflective coating has gone.
Are such things compulsory, let's say, for competitive events?
No, in the competitive event, you have the police there. So the police controls what's happening. So you don't need these reflective clothes in an event, except the event is in the night. And we've had the runs I was telling you about, where Charmaine assisted, they are in the night.
Okay.
So if it's a long one from River Bay, if you're going to start at River Bay, then it's usually at midnight. You start at midnight. You go down by River Bay, and you know there's a district hospital.
Yes.
So you stay up by the district hospital, and when the police arrive, then you go into River Bay. You don't go into River Bay until the police get there.
Okay.
And then they will.
That's a safety issue?
That's a safety issue as well. So the police would stay with you until for a few kilometers, and then they would go, and you would have the rest of the night to get to Bay Street Esplanade. And by the way, it's a short one from the Esplanade around North Point, to Crab Hill, to Arrowac, and then come up the West Coast. That's about, by the time you get the Bay Street Esplanade, you would have done about 36 kilometers, not even a whole marathon.
But you know, what is coming through to me is the level of determination, commitment, even concentration, because I would think you're not writing an examination as such, but you still need to concentrate because you need to focus on, you know, what it is that you're trying to do. How does that, you think, translate to other aspects of life?
I would say that it keeps you, first of all, you have to take something into the road running, or just as you would take into driving a vehicle, if you want to race. You have to take something into it. And I would say that it's not just the running. You might take other things from the work and so on and so forth. I remember, again from Intel, there was this guy, B.F. Skinner. You guys are in education, so you would have heard about B.F. Skinner. Yes. And B.F. Skinner talks about your versatility index. I mean, the number of different things you can do.
Right.
So it's not just running I did. By the time I got to running, I had been in the first fifth form at St. Leonard's School, 1962 to 64. That was the first fifth form they had.
Right.
So I was in that. And then after I left, I did artsy stuff. I went to Cape Coast campus and did physics. You see what I mean? So you could see the versatility. Then I've been a teacher when I left. Okay. I taught at, it was called
the B.F. Skinner.
Yes. B.F. Skinner. I taught at West St. Joseph. It was called West St. Joseph at the time. And
I see we have some similarities.
So actually, my confidence, when I went to teach at West St. Joseph, my confidence soared because the facilities were not good. So you had to be constantly looking for, you know, things to do to get the work done. Yeah. So I would say that when I left there, I felt good that I had picked this. I didn't even know where it was.
What did you teach at secondary school at West St. Joseph?
I taught maths only.
Math?
Yeah, I taught mathematics only.
Okay.
It was good.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
I mean, the students, they're still my friends. Yeah. You understand what I mean? I used to have low absenteeism. I said, so why are you worried about bad behavior? I don't have that. You know, I don't have bad behavior. I have people coming to school every day. So much so that they had a guy who had rheumatic fever. So he had to stay home every now and then to go to the hospital. So they would tell you, don't pressure this guy, da. So I asked him, I said, I noticed that when I'm at the class, you're never absent. So he says, But he doesn't want to stay home because he will miss the jokes. And I said, I didn't know to take that. I didn't know to take that as a compliment.
You were hoping he would have said he would have missed the lesson, the math.
Yes.
But it was the jokes he was
He told me he won't miss the jokes at all.
Well, I suppose if he came for the jokes and learned the math, that was a fair trade, I suppose.
I suppose so. What else should I...
Well, actually, you're talking about safety, and if you can revisit that, you showed us the vest, and that certainly is very enlightening. I see you've got another gadget there.
Oh yeah, this is the headlamp, and this one has, I call it an anti-dog device, because one of the things about running in Barbados is dogs. People just leave the dogs, make it easy for the dogs to get on in a public space. So I discovered that dogs seem to get confused when you use a strobe or flash it on them.
Okay.
So you have this on your head, and the dogs...
So let's see.
Put it on?
Well, of course. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, so normally in the dark, you're running in the dark, so it's on full bright.
So you would keep that on?
I would keep that on normally so they can see whole...
Only at night, though?
No.
Oh.
I keep it, when I turn it on and I leave home, if I get back home at 12 midday, it's still on.
It's still on. And
I know that it works because motorists passing the other side, your light's still on. That's what they say to me. And I'm saying to myself, good, they are seeing it. You understand what I mean? So when the dog comes out, you just reach up and you press the white button, and it should be flashing now.
Yes.
Right. And the first thing the dog does when he sees it stops. And then if you walk towards him, some of them will just turn around and try to get back inside as fast as they can.
And the others that don't do that?
The ones, if you start walking towards them, the McGuffey dogs, if you start walking towards them, they also give way. Okay. No, but I don't go around trying to test it, trying to walk at the dog.
Yeah, because if it doesn't work out, then you may not.
No, but you have other backup. Yeah. For example, you have your water bottle.
Yes. And
you plan to hit him on his nose. So he has to get very close to you to hit him on his nose. Right. So I would suggest to people not to go to run with two empty hands. Yeah. You never know when you're going to need the water bottle.
And it's good to have a plan A, let the water bottle be plan B or C.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Okay, so what would you like to see, what would you like road racing in Barbados to look like, let's say, over the next 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, when we started, statistics told us that they had 80,000 households in Barbados. And 80,000 households. So I said, this was like early 2000s. And I said to myself, I would like to see us get like 2,000, that's one for every 400 households or whatever. You could do the maths. And I think that we were able to get enough runners to satisfy that. But I don't think it has gone, it hasn't gone beyond that. Also, when we started at the early 1998, around that period, they had one of the things that I don't think they should change at all. The road season started in September, and they had 6 races, and they made sure that all the races finished before the ceremonial delivery of the last canes. So you had all the races before crop over started. And so you'd have a break in July. During the crop over period, you know, you're going to fets and so on. And then you rest in August. And then the first race used to come at the first week in September. Okay. So you had races September, then you had Run Barbados December, then you had Austin, you had Whole Town. Festival had one. Then you had, after that you had Austin, Whole Town. Yeah. Then you had the BIDC used to have games. And then the St. Peter Festival would have a downhill 10K. But they were all 10Ks. So we came and forced 5Ks, and that's how you ended up with all these thousands of people participating now.
Do you think Barbados has made or has attempted to make or is like to be able to make an impact internationally in terms of our road running? I
would say running on the road, I would say no, for this reason. All the more able runners I found, the ones who could run much faster than myself, they were already past the stage where they could get like into the Olympics. and then they would have to be competing against the Kenyans and so on. So I think as a small society, and one which has got a big health bill for non-communicable diseases, I feel we should encourage the running initially for the health benefits, to keep the hospital bills low. You get as many races as possible, and hopefully if they're on a good road that doesn't have too many holes, then the people wouldn't get injured, so you don't have to spend any money on injuries either. Now, the next generation, the children see their parents out running, they might aspire to running and run faster than their parents. So eventually, I figured if we had continued to see growth, I figured that sometime you could get at least somebody to do a good 10K.
What are some of the more impactful experiences you've had in road running, whether it be local or overseas? And it may be something comical, it may be something impactful, something memorable that you can share with us.
I would say that if you have on a shirt with Barbados on it, right? Remember that you're not a real athlete, so nobody pays for you. You have to pay to go there. But I find these spectators along the way, they will shout Barbados, Barbados, and of course some of them will also be telling you the same thing the Bajans tell you. Mom, you're wasting time. They can't fire one of these when they're under a tree. Yeah, they do it here, but you're wasting time out there running up and down, sweating at yourself. Come and fire one of these. I found that happened to me in the USA as well. People tell me, come for one of these beers.
Well, of course, you're not tempted. You don't have to answer that.
No.
Yeah, so you've had a 33-year career.
Yeah.
And I suppose you, from time to time, I know you're still active. From time to time, you probably think maybe well, I've had enough and maybe I should just go fully into administration.
But no, but again, here comes the ego. These guys who are faster than me, obviously they were younger. Yeah. When I did my first 10K, I was 50. When I did my first marathon, I was 52. You see what I mean? And I still managed to get 33 in. Some of those guys who would run faster than me have broken down completely and they don't do anything. So I told them, hey guys, when I'm still out there running, you're gonna be broken down like an old Puma car that can't move, right? And that, in some respects, that has happened. But then again, they started so young, and they started so old that they have a lot more, or they had a lot more opportunities to do very well. When I came out there as an old fella, and people look at you and they say, at least there's one man that you could beat here, and they tell you that straight. I mean, this is a.
But it didn't always work out that way.
It didn't always work out that way.
Yeah. Advice to anyone thinking of getting into road running at any specific.
I would say to them. By the way, in my 33 years, I was looking at the logs. I log every run I have going on. The fun when you get back home is writing up the log. Okay. Right? And you also keep a shoe log. I keep a shoe log. Because the manufacturers tell you, well, the shoes are designed to give you 800 kilometers of pounding on the road. Now, how are you going to know you get 800 kilometers if you don't record it? Yeah, so I do that. And I looked at the shoe log, and I realized that I've used 108 pairs of running shoes.
Okay.
I don't like to talk about it because we add up the cost. You say, oh my goodness. Yeah, but I'm on the 108th pair right now.
Most people wouldn't even reach half of that in a lifetime.
I would say no, the guys don't retire the shoes. Some of the injuries are due to not retiring.
I'm talking about non-athletes, the regular people. The average person would hardly go through half of that in a lifetime. So that's something. I suppose the shoemakers and the shoe shops love you.
I would say I've kept the same shoe shop since 1998. And the relationship, for example, at the end of 2000, not close to the end of 2019, I got the first injury. And I was almost 70. I was past 70 when I got my first injury. And I told I brought the shoe home and said, look, I have a calf injury. What do you suggest? So they gave me a number of brands to choose from. And then I sat back and said, okay, send me the shoe weights. Because they normally quote for size 9 for men and size 7 for ladies. But I wear 11. By the way, running weights your feet very big.
Oh, okay.
And the feet continue to grow apparently till they're all up in 60 and 60 plus. Yeah.
Well, in closing, many years ago, I remember hearing an interview with an elderly lady. You were a baby to her. She was in her 90s at the time and still running marathons. And they asked her about retirement and she dismissed that. But she did say that if at any stage I do decide to stop, I always want to learn to play the piano. What would you want to do anytime you decide to put road running on the back burner?
Well, I think that if I stop running, I think I'm going to get I'm going to become ill. Because for one, my blood pressure is going to go up. And other things might go wrong. So I would say I'm trying hard that even if I could only get like 5, 6, 8K done in a session, then I would be satisfied with that. But I don't have any substitute, except of course, you get injured so badly that you can't do it. Then I would have to find something else to do.
Okay. Well, I suppose that gives me some insight as well into what my colleagues may do when they decide not to do the things that they're doing right now. It seems as though it's very addictive.
Some of the, you mean like alcoholic drinks?
I mean, road running seems to be very addictive.
Yes, it can be addictive. And I would say that you don't have to become a teetotaler. But if you smoke, you're going to have problems. Yeah. You're not going to have the lung capacity, but taking a little shot here and there is not going to kill you. Okay.
All right. Well, Eric Clarke, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. It's been interesting. And the commitment and the love, the passion you have for it is also infectious. And I would imagine that you will continue to use that love for the sport to encourage others.
Well, I hope so. I should have mentioned, and I didn't, that there are times when we have to do tests, test a route. And we have, I spoke to her this morning, we have, sometimes you may have to run the whole marathon route, the 42 kilometers, alone. When I say alone, I mean only one person running. Other persons might be given road support, water, and so on. Okay. So we have one woman who has run a whole marathon on a Saturday evening, which I didn't agree with her doing that, but and I have tried one alone, but I ran mine at midnight. Okay.
What was the objective of doing it?
You test the route so that you can tell other people that it's good. You're not going to get foot broken.
Oh, okay.
You see?
Okay. All right. Interesting. Our guest today was Eric Clarke, an avid road runner. Thanks for joining us on MRD Chatroom.